Today we're going to be doing Module 2, Lesson 20. The objective is to estimate differences by rounding and apply to solve measurement word problems. This will be really more of a review because we have been doing a lot of rounding practice. The only difference is that today we're going to be applying that to subtraction instead of addition. The materials needed for today are online whiteboard or your whiteboard, dry erase marker, and dry eraser. And we're going to follow the teaching style where I do it, we do it, and you do it together. Then you do it on your own. First, we're going to start out with a fluency problem. So what I want you to do is go ahead and round 253 to the nearest 100, and then message me that answer in GoGuardian. Okay, so as you were messaging me the answer, I went ahead and set up my number line, and I plotted a point right about where 253 would be. My halfway point is at 250, so it's just above that. And if it's above, we round up to 300. So 253 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. Okay, go ahead and erase your whiteboard and set that down for a moment. I'm going to have you watch me as I solve this problem, and then we'll do one together. So this is estimating the difference of 362 minus 159 by rounding to the nearest tens place. So the first thing I'm going to do, remember you're watching, is I'm just going to set up my two vertical number lines for those numbers that I have to round. The first number I'm rounding is 362. I'm rounding it to the nearest tens place, so I need to look in the tens. And that's a 6. Okay, so I'm going to keep the 3, keep the 6, and then have a 0 in my ones. 36 tens plus one more 10 is 37 tens. My halfway point when I'm rounding to the nearest 10 always ends in a 5. So I'm going to keep my 36 tens and end in a 5. Now I just need to find 362, 360, 361, 362, 363, 364, 365. 362 is below halfway, so I round down to 360. My next number is 159. So I look in the tens place, I have my 15 tens. So 15 tens, keep a 0 in the ones. 15 tens plus one more is 16 tens. My halfway point ends in a 5, so I keep my 15 and end in a 5. Now I need to find 159. 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160. So 159 is right up here towards the top, which is above the halfway point, so I round up to 160. Now that I've figured out what both of my numbers round to, I can go ahead and set up my subtraction problem. 360 minus 160. Step 1, start in the ones. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 tens minus 6 tens is 0. 300s minus 100 is 2. So this difference rounded to the nearest 10 is 200. Next, I'm going to have you go ahead and pick up your whiteboards and do this one with me. 451 minus 153 by rounding to the nearest 10. So the first thing I want you to do is set up your 2 vertical number lines, because we're going to have 1 for each number. First, let's do 451. We're rounding to the nearest 10, so we look in the tens place, and we have 45 tens. So down here at the bottom, 45 tens. 45 tens plus 1 10 is 46 tens, so that's our top number. Our halfway point, we keep the 45 and end in a 5. Now let's find 451. 450, 451, plot a point right there. 452, 453, 454, 455. And I always keep counting just to make sure my numbers are lining up right. $451 is below halfway, so I round down to 450. Let's do our next number, 153. We have 15 tens, so our bottom number is 15 tens. Our top number is one more 10, which is 16 tens. Our halfway point, keep the 15, end in a 5. Now I just need to find 153. 150, 151, 152, 153. Plot a point right there. 154, 155. You can see 153 is below the halfway point, so we round down to 150. Now that we have rounded both of our numbers, we can make our estimation. So we have 450 minus 150. Go ahead and solve that difference and message me the answer in GoGuardian. Okay. Start in the 1, 0 minus 0, 0, 5 minus 5, 0, 4 minus 1 is 3. So 451 minus 153 is about 300, rounded to the nearest 10. All right, go ahead and erase those whiteboards and set them down for a minute. I'm going to show you another example. This time we're rounding to the nearest hundreds. Once again, it should be quite a bit of a review since we have done rounding a lot. So I'm going to set up my 2 vertical number lines. This time I'm rounding to the nearest hundreds place. So I'm going to look in the hundreds. There's a 3 for my first number, so that's going to be 300. Plus one more 100 is 400. Halfway between 0 and 100 is always 50, so I'm going to keep that 3 and end in a 50. Now I just need to find 362. 300, 310, 320, 330, 340, 350, 360, 370, 380, 390, 400. So 362 is going to be right above 360, but not past 370. That point is above my halfway mark, so I'm going to round up to 400. Now I can go ahead and round my next number to the nearest hundreds. So look in the hundreds place, and that's a 1. So my bottom number is going to be 100. My top number will be 100 more, which is 2 hundredths. For my halfway point, I keep the 1 and end in a 50. Now I just need to find 159. 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. 159 I know is right before 160, and it's after 150, so I plot my point there, which I see is also above the halfway point, so I round up to 200. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and do my subtraction. 400 minus 200. I start in the ones. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 4 minus 2, or 4 hundreds minus 2 hundreds is 2 hundredths. So 362 minus 159 is about 200, rounded to the nearest hundred. Okay, go ahead and pick up your whiteboards. I'm going to have you do this one with me. rounding to the nearest hundred. Go ahead and set up your two vertical number lines first. Let's go ahead and start by rounding our first number to the nearest hundreds. So look in the hundreds place. We have a 4, so our bottom number will be 4 hundredths. To get our top number, we need one more hundred. 4 plus 1 is 5 hundredths. Okay, for our halfway point, we're going to keep our 4. End with a 50. And let's go ahead and find where our point is. 451. 400, 410, 420, 430, 440, 450, 460, 470, 480, 490, 500. 451 is right after 450. It's the next number. And even though it's really close to the halfway point, it is still above 450. So we round up to 500. Next, let's go ahead and round our 153 to the nearest hundred. So look in the hundreds place, there's a 1. So our bottom number is 100. Our top number is 100 more, which is 2 hundredths. Make sure you're writing this with me. For our halfway point, we keep the 1 and end with 50. Now we just need to find 153. 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. 153 is going to be right in between our 150 and our 160. It's just above 150. And once again, even though it's really close, it's still above halfway, so we round up to 200. Now that we have rounded both of our numbers to the nearest hundred, we can go ahead and do our subtraction. 500 minus 200. Go ahead and solve that and message me the answer in GoGuardian. Okay, so 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 5 minus 2 is 3. So you should have messaged me 300. 451 minus 153 is about 300, rounded to the nearest hundreds place. Okay, now we are at the part where you are going to be working on your homework alone. Okay, you're working on IXL skill P8, which is estimate differences up to 1,000. Okay, so it's going to give you the problem, and it's going to tell you whether you're rounding to the nearest 10 or to the nearest hundreds. Okay, and you have to figure out what the difference is. So similar to what we did when we were estimating sums up to 1,000, but now we're doing differences. We're doing it with subtraction. Go ahead and begin.